the Boopcast, episode 49. We are your host, SheNoob and
Cory.
And joining us this week, we have two very special first-time guests on the Boopcast, Miss Cal and Miss Bri. Welcome to both of you.
I'm just going to point out that you and me are swapped around.
Yeah,
Kaylee.
That's fine. I mean, we'll deal with that.
Okay. I'm SheNoob then. I get to be SheNoob.
I'm not moving it now. I can't be bothered. It's 6 a.m. Give me a fucking break. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining in the chat, and thank you to the new people for joining and the people we don't see ever because this is the wrong time for you usually. Welcome, everybody. So, SheNoob gender bent. I mean, we're basically the same person. What does it matter at this point?
True.
I mean, I see no difference. It's fine.
Thank you.
So, chapter 6 is the thing that happened, and we're going to talk about it today. Now, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Don't expect me to be switched on or even remotely awake. So, Cory's going to just handle this today.
Sure.
Oh, exams. Oh, right. Yeah. How did that go? Bri, I see you've been doing finals recently as well.
Oh my gosh, it's been a week.
That was an iconic eye roll just then.
It's just over it. And but my last one is Monday, so almost there.
Fingers crossed for you. Okay, so before we get into the chapter, I just do want to point out that Cal's on her phone because her computer exploded. So, yes.
Forgive me, excuse me.
It's okay. You're here. That's, I mean, there was a few points there where we were like, I don't even know what's happening this week because I am an idiot and forgot what dates are. And then also my work is annoying because I work every second Saturday. I love that. At the moment anyway. It's usually once a month, but not at the moment because, yeah. High quality phone cam. Yeah, it's pretty good actually.
It's better than my webcam.
Welcome to 2019. So, before we get into the chapter, we are just going to have a little chat about yourselves, ladies, because you've never been on the Boopcast before. So, starting with Bri, because you're on the left, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Ruby.
I am Brianna, and I am on the YouTube channel with my two best friends on Fandom Reactions. I got into Ruby kind of by accident. I was just scrolling through Netflix, and this was when volumes 1 and 2 were on Netflix before volume 3 came out. So they were like movies to me, like just one movie that I just binged in like 2 hours. And afterwards, I was just, because I had watched Red vs. Blue before, and then I heard about Ruby, just never watched it, and then it was just one bored night. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll watch it, and I kind of became obsessed.
Yeah, so you do a reaction channel with your two best friends, as you mentioned, which is hilarious, and you should definitely go check it out. So I do watch everybody's reactions when I get the time. I just don't usually comment because I'm like, okay, that one was awesome. Next one, like I have a list of like every week I have 15 reactions to watch, and I'm like, I don't have time. But yeah, I do watch everybody's reactions. So. But yes, now moving on to Cal, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Ruby? Hi, Liam.
Yeah. So it's just really weird because Hunter and I became friends in high school, and he tried to show it to me, and I was like, this looks ugly, I don't want to watch this, and he sort of just gave up. And eventually, a couple months later, I was like, fine, whatever, I'll watch it. And then I got like pretty much obsessed, and then that coming school semester, we were like, okay, what are we gonna do with the YouTube channel, because I had been doing sort of gaming and stuff, and Hunter was like, you know what we should do, we should make Ruby videos. And I was like, okay, and now we're all here. So yeah, we do the theories, discussion, like the weekly analysis, just basically everything now, like reactions, all of it.
Awesome. Yeah, so chapter 6. We're on a bit of a tight schedule today because I have work in like 3 hours, less than 3 hours. So we're going to try and stay on track, but we'll see how much that happens. But chapter 6 was quite the chapter. It was the shortest chapter of the volume so far, and it did not feel like it at all.
It felt like forever. Like, I don't
It
even know how to
did. Felt like
explain
it was never going to end. It was just like, what's
There's
happening?
a lot packaged into one
yeah.
episode.
So much happened in
Yeah.
this episode, even though it was relatively short compared to the rest of the chapters. But yeah, it took an eternity. It felt so long. Exactly. If anybody has any questions for us at any stage, you can tweet us at the Boopcast on Twitter, #Boopcast, and we will read them out and answer your questions, because we may not see everything in the chat. I did see that Sailor had a question before. Do you think Penny may die again this volume? Let's start with that topic, shall we?
Yeah.
I'm concerned. I'm just gonna say that.
I mean, like, she's so overpowered that it, like, feels like they need to be rid of her again, just so that way there's not this other superpowered being in the universe, but at the same time, it feels cheap to kill her twice. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel that.
I don't know, because like I've seen so many comparisons from volume 3 to volume 7, so I'm like, oh, what if she does? And just with the way just with the way the episode went, and like framing her for what happened, like what if Robin decides to like take action and just actually does kill her.
Yeah, I'm concerned for Penny's fate at this stage. I'm very concerned, but I feel like it would be far too cruel for them to give her back to us and immediately take her away again. I think if that happens, I might stop watching for a little while.
I think that we do spend 2 volumes in Atlas. Like, they've already said that in, I don't remember what interview they did, but they said that we're going to. So I doubt it'll happen this time. But, like, Hunter and I have been theorizing for weeks now, like, what if Watts hacks Penny and makes her kill people, which is kind of what happened in this episode, but kind of not. Like, she got framed, right? And so it's sort of like, I don't think things are going to go well for her at the very least. Because now she's feeling, like, feelings. Does that make sense? She's like, man, I wish I would have friends, but Ironwood won't let me. How do I feel, Ruby? Like, is this a common feeling? Like, I don't know. She just has some weird, like, emotions. And so I think, if anything, like, what has happened now is going to affect her robot psyche, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like she's going to have basically a robot mental breakdown, because it seems like she's feeling things that are human, but she's being treated like a robot. She may not appreciate that very much. And so maybe it'll be on Team Ruby to have to kill her, which would not be nice.
Yeah.
Let's not think about that.
That's a lot of what I've been thinking as well. Is like, if they're going to kill her off again, they're going to make it hurt. Like, they have to make it hurt for it to be impactful. And what would be the best way to do that? Ruby kills her. Like,
yep, exactly.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely. I don't want to think about it.
Ruby could ever. I don't think Ruby could do it. I think if anyone, it would have to be Ironwood shutting her down. If they were gonna take that route, because I feel like Ruby would be the one to be like, no, like kind of protecting Penny.
Yeah,
and that just hurts too much.
Poor Pietro. I'm gonna cry a little for Pietro.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also, like, the symbolism of having Jean be the one to do it as well, because, you know, of Pyrrha, and especially how Pyrrha's now so incorporated with him. Like, I could see them maybe making him do it, but then that seems a little too on the nose.
Lovely. Okay, let's move on from this topic. I'm already like stressed. Tyson was saying though that he thinks of a few episodes ago when Penny says it'll be just like Beacon again, foreshadowing. Yes. So this podcast is called Volume 3 PTSD for a reason, because I think all of us, when the thing happened in this chapter, got that sort of pang of post-traumatic stress from going through something similar in Volume 3.
And in Chapter 6 of Volume 3.
Yep. Why is it always Chapter 6?
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's full all over again, and we're all just like, oh my god. I think we were better prepared for it this time, because we always knew that this volume was going to turn at some point, because it was sort of looking like it was heading in that direction, and everything was so happy and cheerful in the first half that I'm like, some other shoe's gonna drop. When's it coming? Like, I'm waiting for it. So unless don't trust chapter 6 like ever unless it's volume 5, but we don't talk about volume 5. Volume 5 chapter
Gosh.
9 is the one we don't talk about. Watts did the villainy better than Cinder. That's because Cinder's an idiot, but that's a whole other argument altogether.
Oh my god.
Cinder's an idiot. But anyway, Watts is, yeah, apples and oranges. So, let's start from the beginning. I don't remember what happened in the first half of this chapter because I was so engrossed in the second half.
Well, the episode,
basically-
it started with them showing the end of the riot that was
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
started at the end of chapter 5. So it was like the riot went through the night, basically. Like
They
rounded
arrested
them up.
everyone. It's all good.
Yeah, they the news broadcast said that it was largely Robin supporters, which, like, you know,
Obviously.
not surprised because
Yeah.
most of Mantle seems to support her. But Robin did also, like, disavow their actions. And she like called Watts or Jacques out on his bullshit, being like, "You're holding Mantle hostage. Like, I see what you're doing."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody sees what he was doing, and the only reason he
Hence the
won the
riots.
election is because Watts rigged it. But you know, it would have been interesting to have seen what would have happened if that wasn't the case. But yeah.
Because it was a close race up until the end too. Like, I don't think it didn't seem like he'd started hacking until like the last few seconds of the election.
Yeah, it was very close. But yeah, obviously, I always had the feeling that Jacques was going to win the election, and I had the feeling that it was because it would be rigged. You know, because Watts has been talking to Jacques, and I'm like, well, obviously they're setting up for Jacques to win this election, and Watts is going to rig it somehow. But yeah, I didn't quite expect what happened at the election party. But I did see it coming at the same time, but I didn't quite expect the way that they sort of went about it. I found it really interesting because I always feel like they're trying to find ways to circumvent our expectations, and our expectations were that they're going to hack Penny and make her kill people, but they sort of took that idea and did something else with it, which kept us on our toes. So yeah, I find it really interesting that they sort of went that route, because I'm wondering if they could even hack Penny, but I mean, Watts can apparently hack everything, so I didn't expect it to be such a punch in the face. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it definitely, it was one of those open mouth sort of moments where you're just watching what's going on and going, what the fuck is happening right now? And like, there's nothing you can do but watch it unfold. Thankfully, nobody we love died yet, but
Fiona's
Jury's
close.
still
How
out.
dare you?
yes.
Hey,
Who-
Fiona said she's okay.
Oh my god,
so-
Fiona.
She
yeah.
did
is
say
okay.
she's okay.
Fiona gave me a fucking heart attack. I'm like, what's with them killing all of the background characters that we love this volume? I'm like, Forrest and then Fiona. I'm like, oh, F named people are screwed, clearly.
Oh,
Is
I
anybody in Team
know.
Ruby's name start with F? No.
They definitely made Fiona cute on purpose, just
Oh yeah.
to murder her. Like, they, you know what I mean? Because that's the easiest attachment that the fandom gets. It's like, oh, the cute panda girl from from episode 1, and now it's like her. So it was all very calculated.
Yes. Speaking of cute people
Because we need
dying.
an F in the chat.
So Larissa and I were rewatching the episode last week, and we noticed that 3 of the thirsty moms from the previous chapter are dead on the floor, and that's just really horrible. And I hate
Yep.
that
Did
they
not
did
catch
that.
that.
Yeah, you can actually, if you go back and watch the chapter, you can see 2 of them standing at the front before the attack happens, and then afterwards there's 3 of them dead on the floor. So people have like matched their clothing and stuff like that. Yeah, it's awful. We were like watching it, we were like, hang on a minute.
I didn't even catch
Granted, though,
that.
if
Yeah, it's horrible.
if you
and I'm
watch
like,
the if you watch Robin's scene where she's giving the thing and you look at the audience members, there's only like maybe 15 separate models filling that room, and there's like copies of them everywhere. So, you know, there were quite a few thirsty moms in there, but you know, still.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful, and I hate that they did that, and they're horrible, horrible people, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But you know, we come to expect this from Kruby. They like to wreak havoc with our emotions. I would have hunted Tyrion if he killed her. I have theorized for a few years now that Ruby may possibly lose an eye at some point. I theorized that first back in Volume 4, but I mean, in Volume 4, I theorized a lot of terrible things because I was so traumatized that I was just feeling like bad things were going to happen, and then they didn't. But here we are 3 years later. Bad things are happening again. Yay. Love that for us. So, what was next after the initial sort of riot cleanup there? I can't remember.
Training.
Literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the training.
The training. God, so much happened in this episode. Oh my god. But yeah, I loved seeing sort of Weiss and Winter go head to head because they have the same semblance. So watching them sort of butt heads is always very interesting. The way that the sort of different ways that they each use their glyphs, and the tiny knight like knocking out Winter's Achilles heel was hilarious.
Yeah, Weiss plays dirty, and I was just
She does.
like
I love
Winter
that
did
about
not
her.
approve.
I love that about her though, because she used to be this like prim and proper, you know, it's all about poise sort of girl, and now she's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna come up behind you and stab you in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, I love that about her. Training with semblances specifically, it seemed. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good thing.
Yeah,
to
because
point
I
out.
think Yang was, I don't know, with her gauntlets, and then Blake was using her shadow clone, so like they were chasing each other or something. But yeah, it's all semblance stuff.
And then Ruby, you know, demonstrating her ability to teleport, which is a confusing power that she has, but I'm sure we'll learn more about it eventually. I
also didn't notice that at first, that she was charging directly at Ren, and Ren's just sitting there meditating and like flinched not even a little bit.
I mean, Ren is just spaced out for this entire season.
Yeah.
He's like,
I think that's the
I'm
idea
not
that
here
Ren
right
wasn't
now.
supposed to move or something. Like that was a test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for Oscar because he's like watching everybody run around with their cool semblances, and John's getting better at his, and like he's able to recharge his aura so quickly. And Oscar's like, I can't do anything cool. Like,
yeah, but like also you're 15, 14,
He'll
something
get
in
there.
there. Like
I
you'll
will
get
be
there.
very interested to see what Oscar's semblance is, because I don't think
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever saw Oz's semblance, but I don't know that it was really relevant for him. Whereas it will be relevant.
I mean,
for
he's
Oscar.
already kind of a magical being, so like
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know if we ever saw it. We may have done and just not been aware of it. But yeah, we'll never know now. But yeah, it's going to be more relevant for Oscar than it was for him. So looking forward to the day that Oscar has his Jean moment. Tyrion and Jean
Also,
parallels
you did
now.
Yeah, as I say, you
we'll
did
talk
skip
about
over
that.
Jean's part of the training.
Yeah.
Because he like, you know, was able to restore his aura very quickly.
Yeah.
And then I also just loved the little detail of Nora like gave him the pat on the back and like zapped it right back down.
Yeah, that was nice.
By like a third. Jesus. So I misestimated my ability to pick up on what is happening. Yeah, so
I told you wouldn't understand what was happening,
we'll talk
Alex.
about Tyrion and Jean's parallels in a bit, because that is very interesting. So yeah, I mean, Ironwood comes in and he starts talking about, you know, Nora seems very adamant on you know, making a point to him of you have to do something about Mantle, because if you don't, that's going to be the end of you. And like she seems to be it's almost like she's the only one who's thinking about it logically and being like, dude, if you don't control these people, they're going to revolt against you, or if you don't at least get them on your side. But I mean, at this point, it's inevitable.
Since they arrived in Mantle, though, Nora's been very like pro Mantle, help the people of Mantle. You know, Mantle's being mistreated and all this stuff, and so like she's very impassioned about Mantle, and I just keep being like, she's from here. She has to be from here. Like
it's all foreshadowing.
It is all
foreshadowing.
Yeah, for sure. I also feel like Nora's just a bit of an advocate for the downtrodden as well. Because I think coming from the background that she does, yeah, she sort of she doesn't like to see people who are disadvantaged. So yeah, she keeps making a point to Ironwood of, you've got to do something about this because it's going to be your biggest problem before long. Did they mention Nora was supposed to get some finished backstory soon? Yes, they might have.
Yeah. Nora's voice actor said something about that at I don't know where she was exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, Sam did mention
she's at some
that there would
convention
be
a couple months before
some
volume.
Nora backstory this
That's
volume.
sort of why everyone thought, like, oh, like Nora, maybe she's like Pietro's daughter because Penny looks similar, so and then also obviously the Winter Maiden theory, which is probably like the correct answer now, considering Pietro has seen Nora and said nothing. So
Nora is Freya's grandmother, or Freya is Nora's grandmother?
Oh wait, what did I say?
It's got no. Sailor said it's got to be her being Freya's grandmother. I mean, Freya. Yeah, there you go. That's better. I was gonna say Nora. I don't know.
Nora's looking great.
Nora looks fabulous. It's them damn thunder thighs, man.
Exactly.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So, what the fuck were we talking about?
After that, Clover and them were like, "Oh, sorry."
Well, I was
there
gonna say,
something
I saw
else?
a theory about with Ren and his he was doing his meditating thing, and then Ironwood and Clover came in, and people are like, "This is the second time we've seen Ren have some sort of weird cue towards Clover approaching." And I'm like, I wasn't really on board with the Clover being evil kind of a thing, but I'm like, this has happened twice now, and I'm kind of like, is this foreshadowing?
I know, I'm getting really anxious. I'm getting really anxious because if they stamp out my ship, I will be pissed the fuck off. I will be so mad. You will never see me so angry if this fucking bad luck charm shit does not happen. I'm not even joking. I will be so fucking mad. But if that happens, I'm going to flip my lid. So just warning you in advance. Because
I think
that ship is my favorite thing about the show right now. So fucking Clover.
At this point, really, it's either Clover or Marrow. They haven't developed the others enough to be like, it was Vine all along. No, I don't think they...
That would be so weird.
No.
I don't think they'd do that. That would be weird. So, poor Clover.
See, this is why I think it's Clover. And I've been on this since I first met him. This is the thing I'm just like, it's fucking Clover. Because at first, when we first met him, end of volume 1, or no, end of episode 1 and episode 2, there was nothing really for me to grasp at. I'm like, okay, it's just a feeling, but he hasn't really done anything yet. And then where do I start? Because I have so many theories. Okay. I have so many theories about Clover. I swear I have a board. I'm just like, this is the times that he's done bad. Can't prove it though, but he's done it. I know he has.
It's like that meme with the dude with all the photographs with the string connecting to them, being it's all a conspiracy.
One that me and Lauren had been talking about is that his good luck semblance. Maybe he's using his good luck semblance so he doesn't get caught being a mole. And then what was the other one? So in the previous episodes, you've seen Clover and everyone else kind of oh, don't take Marrow on this mission. Don't take Marrow on this mission. But then they send him to do protection on the night of the election. If they really thought that there was going to be some sort of threat, wouldn't they have sent someone like Clover? And where was Clover during that?
Yeah.
So another one I kind of just made up last night was just he if he was the mole working for Watts, at one point he had the artifact. He had the relic, sorry. He had the relic at one point because he's like, oh, you guys are gonna go up to talk to Ironwood in a second, and then it's magically back. How do we not know that the last wish was used?
Oh no.
I mean, they would need to know about Jin. But who's to know that maybe Salem doesn't know about that?
Exactly.
You guys are stressing me out.
I know.
There's also There's also he was like, your niece is really something special, and I like paused our reaction. I was like, Hunter, that's sketchy as fuck. Like, I don't care.
It is
But he
sketchy.
was like, but it was a compliment, Cal, and I was like, no, okay, that's not nice. That's not good. This isn't good.
I did the exact same thing.
I'm starting to get really suspicious, and I'm like, if they're going to do this whole Clover's gonna turn on them thing, I just want them to do it before they establish this Crow and Clover thing that they're setting up, because if they establish that and then do it, I'll be even more angry.
See, I think that he's trying to distract Crow and like butter him up and be like, oh yeah, like, oh, your niece is cool and all that stuff, and like his good semblance, like Crow isn't gonna see through it, and so far the only person that's seeing it is Ren from when he had the danger sense, like episode 1 and then last episode, and I feel like Ren is gonna be the only one that realizes that Crow is fishy and something's gonna happen to Ren, and I'm not okay. Or we could just
I'm, like,
be
so
wildly
scared now.
over-theorizing and everything's fine and Clover's actually really nice.
I know. I still like I'm starting to like be more skeptical of Clover, but I still kind of am sticking with my original theory that like none of them are necessarily like evil. It'll just become like their ideologies will change and they will no longer be on Team Ruby's side. That will turn them into
I feel like
villains.
both things are a possibility. I also feel like I'm in denial of both. So I'm just gonna blissfully sit here in denial and pretend that everything's fine.
It would kind of be nice if
Everything's
it was like
fine. Nothing bad is going to happen.
if Clover was like, Crow, I was with the bad guys, but ever since I met you, I've changed. I won't be a traitor anymore. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe in another show. I doubt that they'll do something like that, but I would cry and like forgive him even if he was sketchy as fuck. If he was just like, Crow, you've changed me. Okay, I'm a different man. I was working with them, but it's different now. Like, I don't know.
I tried to give like the benefit of the doubt possibly, but like no, Crow's evil. But there could be a chance that he's just being manipulated by Watson, doesn't know the full story. Like that could be a possibility. He's a traitor though. But I'm 100% convinced. I'm like, this is gonna happen.
Liam, I'm going to sit here in blissful denial until it happens. And then once it happens, I'll be like, oh.
It'll just crush you utterly.
It will crush me on the inside, and I, like, honestly, if it happens, I am going to flip out, because I'll be so mad for my crushed gay ship dreams. And, like, I've been shipping this so hard since the beginning of the volume that I'm like, if this doesn't happen, I'm actually going to just die on the inside. Hello, what's on topic? Evil people. It would crush me more if Clover dies after he turns evil.
I mean, but once they turn evil, they gotta kill him.
I'm just really hoping that Clover isn't going to be that cut and dry of a character. I'm hoping it's going to be more complicated than that. Yeah, that's the thing. We haven't had any male LGBT representation in the show. So I'm like, if this is the only thing they've given us in 7 years, and then they're going to do this, that's why I'm going to be mad.
Yeah.
I'm going to be mad for every male member of the LGBT community and myself. Because I love them and I don't want that to happen. And I'm just going to deny it until it does.
I mean, just because Clover turns evil, I mean, we'll still have Crow.
Like... Exactly. Yes, we still have Iron Crow.
That's true, I guess.
There.
I don't ship it. I just don't trust Ironwood. And, like, I feel like I may be at the point where I'm like, I'm trusting the wrong people and not trusting the wrong people. So I'm like, but I feel like the show is doing that deliberately, and I'm subconsciously aware of it, but I'm still falling right into it anyway, because I'm like, it'll be fine. Rivi Imo doesn't always do romance the best. I mean, it's taken 7 years for a Renoricus, so... And I mean, they first really got together in Volume 4, so it's been 3 years. And I'm like, come on, that took you far too long. This should have happened 2 volumes ago. But, you know, Crow's still best by icon, don't at me, yes. But, yeah, I mean, it's a slow burn. It's always a slow burn with Ruby.
Yeah.
Look at Bumblebee. They've been setting that up since day one, and like they're still awkward as fuck. So, you know, they're still in that awkward phase. But you know, yeah, that's Ruby for you. It takes a long time to set things up and then pay them off. But
plus also they've had a lot of other things to worry about. Like this is honestly the first time a lot of them have had downtime in like 3 volumes. I guess outside
and look how it
Volume
went for
5,
them
but-
now. Like
Yeah.
they finally got downtime and now here we are.
I'm really concerned for Ren's mental state after this chapter, because at the start of this chapter he was all like angsty and like, we don't have time for this shit, and then like Nora was like, you know, saying to him, you know, like, what are you worried about? And he's like I'm just worried, and like, you know, there's a lot going on inside his head. He's not a vocal person, so he doesn't express a lot of what he's probably thinking constantly. And you know, and then they share this moment together, and this terrible thing happens immediately after. So I'm really concerned for his mental state and his relationship with Nora going forward. And also, excuse me, I called it about Ren being a bit of a dick to Nora this volume, because I've been saying that since the start, and some people were like, no, he's just being Ren, and I'm like, no, he's being an asshole, and there's a reason. So there was a reason, so thank you very much. But yeah, he was definitely being a bit of a dick, because I think inside he was feeling a bit vulnerable and a bit concerned about the change in his relationship with Nora. So he started to push her away a little bit, which is what introverted people tend to do. I know, because I do it, and it's bad. So last time a redhead kissed her true love, she died. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yikes.
Yikes.
I doubt they'll kill Nora before they do the grandmother situation, like if that is destined for the course, but after, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm a little concerned if they're wrapping up Nora's backstory, then she no longer has plot armor after that. And I'm like,
yeah.
Ugh.
To be fair, I still don't even think she has plot armor now.
Well,
Like,
we still haven't seen the backstory.
Of a lot of the characters, she's the most expendable.
Cory, shut the
I
fuck
guess
up.
Ren is.
Shut up! Stop talking. I don't want anything bad to happen. That's going to. Who am I kidding? But yeah. I'm very concerned for Ren at this point, because I feel like they made some progress, and now they're gonna 2 steps forward, 10 steps back again. So
Yeah.
Especially because like he was literally in the middle of kissing Nora, and then you know Ruby yells "Look out!" and he's all like
yeah, he's got one eye like.
Yeah.
What's happening? And he also didn't like sort of sense it coming like he usually senses the danger coming, but he was distracted a little bit. So I'm just really hoping he's not going to turn around and blame Nora for not being prepared for what happened. But
nah, he's gonna blame himself.
He'll blame himself, but I'm wondering if he might project
Also,
that outwardly onto her.
He's also the only one of those 3 who brought his weapons to the thing. Which I'm like, wait, why was he allowed to have his weapons with him?
I mean, they're licensed huntsmen now. I feel like licensed huntsmen are allowed to just carry their weapons around. But Ruby and Nora chose not to. I mean, because they're kind of large and cumbersome weapons. But whereas Ren's are a bit more, they just sort of hang there. But yeah,
and Ren was also on like red alert, I guess.
Yeah, Ren is also.
Whereas Ruby was like,
he's
gonna hang
like,
out with Penny.
Yeah, Ren's always sort of like ready for danger, so it makes sense that he was the one who brought his weapons. I'm wondering if Atlas Academy has the rocket lockers, and they're just gonna. Oh my god, I'm getting flashbacks to Volume 3. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. Oh, stop. No. Get out of the rabbit hole.
They did have like glowing lockers in their dorm room that we saw this time, but they looked more like, I think they were more like wardrobes than like, you know, here's where you put your weapons. Like,
the reason I say is because Ruby and Nora need their weapons, so I'm like, do they have
are we allowed to talk about?
Like... Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say, are we allowed to talk about the advertisement leak that they did? Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
I feel like at this point it's fine.
Yeah,
because we kind of know it's coming.
We know what's coming. Yeah. I mean, if it's relevant, yes.
I was just gonna say Blake and Yang had their weapons.
Yes, they did.
So
yeah,
where they came from, or if they took them with that, like I don't know, but they had to.
I don't think they took them to the
grab
club.
No, I don't think they took them dancing, so they had to get them somehow. Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh my gosh.
Wait a minute, what did Ruby have at the end of the episode? Wasn't she holding something before she ran off? No, she wasn't. No, she didn't have a weapon. Nora doesn't have a weapon, and I don't think Blake and Yang will have theirs. I don't think Jean will have his either, or Weiss. Weiss left without hers. We did see her leave without hers. I don't know if Oscar will have his, but at any rate, people have to get their weapons somehow. So, and speaking of all the other groups, something interesting was pointed out to me that Weiss and Jean and Oscar have gone to the movies, and Blake and Yang have gone to a dance club, both of which are places that are very loud, and you aren't going to be able to hear your scroll if it rings, or, you know, like they're in places where they're very hard to get into contact with. So I think they're going to be a little late to the party next chapter. We know they're going to show up because Rooster Teeth likes to spoil things, but you know, like I think it's going to be. I'm hoping for like some sort of scenes in the next chapter where we see each of them in their current situations and just like being blissfully unaware of what's going on. Yeah, it's fucking horrific.
They do have those like the grim alarms. That I'm like, I feel like wouldn't they, if, you know, a grim alarm started going off, wouldn't they have something, you know,
like a public service announcement?
Yeah, I feel like you would evacuate the movie theater.
That's a good point,
kind of
Nightwalker. Blake and Yang and John and Weiss and Oscar are still in Atlas, actually, not down in Mantle. So they could possibly go and get their weapons before they leave. But yeah, maybe it'll be like a Ruby alone episode like Zuko got in Atla. If Yang and Ruby could get
Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch that. So
it's great.
It is great.
I only saw the god awful live action movie, and it put me off for life. So,
no, it's terrible. Everyone hates it. I've told you this before.
I know that, but I can't bring myself to watch the anime because I'm like, no. But yeah, what were we talking about? Yeah, weapons. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm wondering is if or if they're just gonna have to make do with, you know, whatever they can find, I guess.
And they'll probably just explain it away with rocket lockers, like.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Or something, you know. They'll come up with some excuse for how they get their weapons back. Like, I'm not super worried about that kind of a like plot hole happening.
I mean, I don't think Atlas would be able to afford to ignore what's happening down in Mantle right now, with the way that tensions currently are. And Ironwood is in charge of that decision, so I feel like he is definitely going to send out a red alert and send aid to help in Mantle, especially because one of his Aesops is already down there. So I feel like the rest of the Aesops are going to show up, and you know, Blake and Yang and Jean and Oscar and Weiss, everybody's going to show up at some stage.
Yeah, it just depends on if the Grims stay focused in Mantle. Because if the Grims start attacking Atlas, you know, that idiot's gonna be like, everyone to Atlas, protect us! Like, that's what he does. So, if the fighting stays down in Mantle, it'll be easier for him to deploy forces there to, you know, keep everybody safe-ish.
So, going back to the sort of first half, there's stuff that we've skipped over. I know that there is.
We skipped over them all, like, making their plans.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
like, what they were
Blake was
do.
doing her makeup, Yang was sitting on the bed, and Weiss was like, I know my father's not like this. I don't know, like, not that he's not bad, but, like, why would he do that? And all that.
Yeah. She's like, he's not this fucking stupid.
Yeah, basically. My father's stupid, but not this fucking dumb. Like,
that's essentially what she's saying in her own Weiss way. I wish we could get like an M-rated version of Ruby sometimes, where, you know, because I just want to hear Weiss swear. But...
that would be such a fun thing for them to have developed over the seasons too, is her starting off like, how dare you swear, and her now just being like a fucking sailor.
Yeah, essentially. But yeah, I mean, she's, you know, she's so caught up in what her father's doing at the moment, where she's like trying to figure out, why would he do this right before the election? It's only going to hurt his chances. So she's sort of thinking about like what's going on behind the scenes. Like clearly he's up to something, but she's still very consumed in what her father is doing. Especially so much that she wasn't going to sort of go out that night until she realized she'd be stuck in a room with Blake and Yang being adorable, and she was like, nope. So, but I've seen a lot of...
I was going to say, you did the people that
I
were
feel like
talking about...
we're going to talk about the same thing, aren't we?
People saying that, like, this is clearly proof that she doesn't support the ship, or she is, homophobic or something, and it's
that's
not
weird.
Most people need to shut the fuck up.
I think
Y'all
Weiss
are
is just
stupid.
like, God, these two are so oblivious. Like, can they just, like, fuck already? Like,
I know. I feel like everybody around Blake and Yang at that is feeling like that at this point. Like, oh my God, you two. Like, how do you not see what's happening here? And, like, it's sort of... If you've ever hung around, like, if you've ever been a third wheel to two people who are, like, in the honeymoon phase of their relationship and they're, like... being all cutesy, and it's disgusting, and you don't want to stand there and watch it. You're like, no, I'm gonna go watch a movie. Bye. You guys have fun. That's kind of what her sort of attitude towards it is. It seems like she's like, I am not about to be alone in a room with these two. I'm gonna go to the movies. But yeah, a lot of people were saying, oh, Weiss clearly hates them and doesn't support the ship. And I'm like, first of all, Weiss is a character in the show and isn't aware of the ship. Second of all, you're stupid.
She was wingmanning for Blake so hard during
She was.
Volume 5. Like,
Yeah.
So hard.
To Yang when Yang's like, why did she leave me? La la la. And she's like, no, it's like she has her own problems and you guys are gonna work it out. And she's like, I hate people sometimes.
Nightwalker, even if the ship gets properly canonized, like at this point we know that's where they're sort of heading in that direction, but like we haven't had any real establishment of their relationship. Even if it gets canonized, the haters still gonna hate. And like this is such a polarizing ship, and I feel like it has a lot to do with the fact that it's LGBT, a lot to do with the fact that it's two of the main characters, and that it has been such a massive ship for the fandom since the beginning. Because like people feel like it's pandering or whatever, but I'm like, even as somebody who I was like, I did not ship Bumblebee. I hated people who did ship it because of the sort of nature of the ship and how toxic it all was, and like within the fandom. Now I'm all for it. I'm like, okay, if this is gonna happen, go for it. Like, definitely, I'm all about it. I support them 100%. I still don't engage with it in the fandom because it is so toxic. And I'm like, it's not just the people who ship it, and it's not just the people who are against it. It's everybody collectively.
I think it's just the nature of shipping, kind of, though.
I don't engage with
people,
with any of it in the fandom.
People are too... I don't know.
Like, they are so like
opinionated, I guess.
Everybody is so like, my opinion is canon, and that's all there is to it. And like, there's so much disrespect and discord when it comes to shipping in any fandom, not just this one. But people just can't seem to get along and like accept that people have different theories. And people, ship different ships, and it's like, ship whatever you want as long as you're not shipping Toradonna. It's fine. But we won't open that can of worms, even though I just did. You guys know how I feel about that. But yeah, it's like, it's there's so much toxicity surrounding it, and I'm like, I am going to take the canon as gospel, and everything outside of that is theorizing and opinions and sort of nothing's canon until it's canon. But some people behave like their theories are canon or their ships are canon, even when there's major evidence to the contrary. And when it gets to that point where people are ignoring evidence in the show just because they want it to be one way and it is another, that irritates me. So I don't engage with it in the fandom, because I just end up getting in arguments with people that are pointless because they're not going to change their opinions or use logic to reach their conclusions. They just go, but I want it to be like this, and then they can't think outside of that. So I don't engage with it because it's exhausting and a waste of time.
that's exactly why I don't think that, you know, Nightwalker saying that if they make it canon, like fully explicitly canon, that like people will stop fighting over it. I'm like,
They won't.
no, because
No,
people
they
are
won't.
already at the point in the fandom where they're going against Monty's wishes, or you know, this or that, or blah blah blah. Like, so many people are so trapped in their own thing that I'm like, even if they make it canon, people are still gonna hate it. People are still gonna bitch about it. Like,
People
there's
will be
really
complaining about the
nothing that
ship
would do.
for years after the show ends. It will
Yeah.
still be a thing. We'll still be hearing about it for years after the show comes to an end. Even if Blake and
Legend
Yang
of
end up
Korra.
married at the fucking end, people will still be like, oh, but this isn't my Ruby. Munty didn't want this. Also, fuck those people that say that. You're all cunts.
Yeah.
It's been interesting for me just because I started like doing the videos for volume 4, and so it was sort of like, oh, there's still Sun, and that was people's sort of main argument, if you want to call it that. But now for 2 volumes, Sun is fucking gone, and so it seems to, I think it always like has been the pandering thing, but it's been interesting to see how people's arguments have progressed to whatever they can hold on to. Like before it was, oh well, Sun's here, and now it's like, well, Sun's gone, what are you gonna say next? Oh, it's pandering, it's this, it's that. But yeah, I think regardless, it's not going to stop. Like, people are always going to fight. I mean, like, Hunter and I have done shipping videos, and the comment sections have been pretty tame, all things considered. I mean, we haven't done an update in a couple of years, but it's sort of like, I don't know. It's going to keep going, and I think it is the LGBT stuff, because we've gotten some nasty comments about, like, oh, well, I'll only be happy if, you know, Saffron and Tara die, because this isn't, like, appropriate. Like, basically, they want the gays to be killed off, like, to punish them and all that. So like we've gotten some ridiculous things, and so that obviously carries over to Blake and Yang as well. But it's more like even Saffron and Tara, which like who the fuck cares, really? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like theoretically, who the fuck cares? Like they're side characters. Like people are still mad about those two being in the relationship anyway. You know what I mean? Even though they're not really relevant plot wise or anything like that.
Probably never see
People
them
get
again.
so angry about things that literally don't affect them in any way whatsoever. And like that is being a member of the LGBT community in a nutshell, is that people will come at you so angry about how we live our lives, even though we have no choice in the matter, just because they don't agree with it. And it's like, my life does not affect you in the slightest. It is none of your business. It is none of your concern what I do with my life. And I also don't care about your opinion. So go away. Like, I'm just at the point where, like, somebody comes at the LGBT community with, like, and I do see these comments in the Ruby fandom of, like, you know, there's more gay ships than there are straight ships. And I'm like, no. There's more gay characters than there are straight characters. I'm like, no. And like, they'll just use any argument they possibly can, or any straw they can possibly grasp at, to back up their opinions. And it's like, that all they're doing is, it's just hatred, and there's no basis to it at all. And it's like, even whether you're a member of the community or not, there's just no basis for it. It's just ridiculous. But people will always find reasons to back up their opinions about why they don't like something, just because they just don't like it. And they're like trying to back it up with fact. But the fact of the matter is, there's no fact or logic to it. It's just, they just don't like it. And it's like...
And I feel like sometimes people need to just, like, understand that, though. Is that, like, sometimes it's okay to say, I just don't like it. Problem is just leave it at that.
Yeah.
You know? I just don't like it. Just leave it at that. Like, stop there. Don't argue more, and don't, like, convince other people. Just be like, hey, I didn't like that. You know?
Yeah.
Cool. Like, but don't, like, suddenly try to convert everybody to why this is terrible and blah, blah, blah. Like, just leave it at that.
And don't
You're allowed to not like
confuse...
things.
And don't confuse your opinions with fact as well. Your opinion is not a fact, it's your opinion. It becomes fact if it's supported by evidence from the show. It's an opinion until that happens. So, but some people talk like their opinions are fact. And they go, and they make things up to be like, oh, well, so-and-so said this. And it's like, well, do you have a source to that? And they never do, because it didn't actually happen. They just delude themselves into this little bubble that, like, I'm right and everybody else is wrong, even though there's no evidence to support me whatsoever. So, and that's just how they are, and we just have to ignore them.
Yeah.
And eventually they will go away. But yeah, don't feel the need to justify it and make yourself look more like a scumbag in the process. Yeah, if you don't like something, cool, fine, that's your opinion. But respect the fact that other people do. And for other people, LGBT representation is so important, because for forever in the history of media, it just hasn't been a thing. And in a show like RWBY, it's so important because it's such an influential show and it's becoming more popular by the year. And there's so many young people that watch the show, and so many young LGBT people. It's so important to have this sort of representation, especially in animation, because a lot of children see it too. And it's so important for children to see that representation in the media that they watch, because so many LGBT children grow up believing that that there's something wrong with them, and it's just really sad. Young people like you.
Yes,
You're
Shozo,
still
of course
young,
you.
Shozo. You're silver-haired dinosaur. So, yeah, enough about that topic. But, where were we in the actual episode?
We're talking about the weapons.
Oh, Jean went to the movies with Weiss and Oscar,
Yeah.
which was really cute. Like, oh my god, how Oscar looked up at Jean and how Jean looked down at him. Like, they were just so happy that Weiss was going. But yeah, after that, they went to the. They were walking down the street, and Ren and Nora were arguing, and Ruby was just like, oh, like, this isn't good. I don't want to be here.
Yeah. With the Jean and Oscar thing, I really love that sort of shot where Weiss is like, you know, not glaring at Blake and Yang, but like, ugh, I'm so done with these two. And then John and Oscar popping their heads in saying, hey, we're going to the movies if anyone wants to join. And before he even gets to finish his sentence, Weiss is like, yep, and turns around. Jean's reaction to that is adorable. He goes, oh, okay. And he's like scratching the back of his head, like, because the last time he asked us to the movies didn't go so well. So yeah. I love that they've drawn that parallel of like, John, you know, asked her to go to the movies once with him, and she was like, no. And now she's just like, yep, I'm going. Get me the fuck out of here. I will come to the movies with you, Jean. And Oscar's little smile when he looked up at Jean was so adorable. Like, yay, Weiss is coming to the movies. So it's so pure and wholesome. I love it.
It shows how much Weiss and John have like grown up too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, go back to volume 1. Like, she wouldn't even give him the time of day, and I feel like they've both grown so much in that aspect. So like, now that they're going to the movies, it's like, full circle. Not full circle.
He saved her life. She owes him a fucking lot. He saved her life. She would have died if it wasn't for Jean. And I think she's aware of it in the back of her mind, but I don't think it's really in her nature to like, oh, you saved my life, like, I'm just going to worship the ground you walk on. That's not in her nature. She will return the favor, I think, at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
I think it just helped her
way
finally see him as, like, a competent, meaningful...
Yeah.
And a friend as well.
A friend,
most importantly. Yeah. I mean, Neptune calls him her friend back in Volume 2, and she sort of looks like, really? Jean's my friend? Okay. Don't love that for me. But now it's like, you know, they're all equals, and he's definitely a friend, and the fact that she's willing to go see a movie with Jean when, you know, once upon a time she wasn't even willing to stand in the same room as him. They have a very respectful friendship, yeah, and he did save her life, which I think greatly helped. So yeah, she does owe him that still. Jean isn't even asking her, just anyone, and she happens to need a place to be. Exactly. So he wasn't even directly asking her. He's like, hey, if anyone wants to come, she's like, yep, bring me, quickly, get me out of here. But yeah, the fact that she doesn't even really think about it, and Jean's reaction is just so adorable. I loved it. He's like, oh, okay, cool.
That's what got me with this episode. It's like, I knew that something bad was gonna happen, but they lulled us into this false sense of security and like, oh, like, this is so wholesome, this is so pure, Blake and Yang are going dancing, Renora kiss, like, and then it just all came crashing down.
And this is the thing, in every story ever made ever, nothing good ever happens at an election rally. At any kind of political event, nothing good ever happens. So I was expecting something to happen, not necessarily on this scale. and not necessarily what did happen. I certainly wasn't expecting Tyrion to show up. That kind of caught me off guard, but when it happened, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes complete sense. What was I on about? But yeah, it sort of did catch me off guard a little bit, but when I saw him, I was like, okay, and you're here. Well, this is about to be really bad. So, hasn't every episode been 80% happy fun times and the last 20% bad? That's a good point. But yeah, I mean, this was more than 20%
were really,
bad.
really bad.
This was pretty bad. This was like 40% bad.
But now we're on like the second half of the volume now, because like after episode 6, like we're on like the crazy train now. Like there's nothing holding us back now. Now we're just like, oh shit, here it comes. Yeah,
it's gonna steamroll after this for sure.
Yeah.
Eddie Rivas was like, it's time for Act 2, and I was just like, okay. Like,
thanks,
2,
Eddie.
Let's go. Thanks.
Speaking of which, do we know for a fact that there's going to be a chapter 7 tomorrow? Because I haven't seen anybody in the crew be tweeting about it, which has been interesting. They've been silent, and that concerns me because they've been very vocal every other week.
Usually Verve will post a thing, like a thumbnail, and that's how people usually find out the thumbnail and title before Rooster Teeth posts it, but nobody was able to find it. But it's not Christmas yet, and it's also not Thanksgiving anymore, so if they did do a break, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like if there was going to be a break tomorrow, they would have told us by now. And also, I feel like they're holding off on us deliberately, and they're going to post the thumbnail and title at the very last minute this week. And the reason they're being so silent, I think, is one, to let us sort of absorb what's just happened, and two, to sort of just spring it on us a little bit and be like, and here's chapter 7. It gets so much worse. I feel like, they're being very hush-hush, and every other week they've been so vocal, or like all the writers have been like, I'm so excited for next week, I can't wait, and like just hyping us up so much, and this week, nothing. And I'm like, I'm so anxious that y'all are not saying a damn thing about this next chapter.
It's just a sense of dread with this, because I'm just like, oh, I don't know what's happening.
I'm so anxious. I'm like, oh, just drop it on me already. Rip the Band-Aid off, get it over with.
I definitely think it's calculated.
It's for sure deliberate, because the fact that they've all gone silent is just like, somebody fucking say something to me. Like, my anxiety levels are through the roof. What's gonna happen? We already know at least one thing that's gonna happen, because she is Rooster Teeth, but I will still be mad about that forever. I talked about it last week, but
the title's probably gonna be like, this is the end or something, and that's why
beginning of the end, chapter 2.
Yes. Exactly. Electric Boogaloo, like.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
I'm having these vibes, I'm scared.
Yeah, the fact they haven't shown us a thumbnail or a title or anything, and they haven't said that there's not going to be a chapter, and they haven't said anything about it. None of the writers have tweeted, none of the animators have tweeted. Miles and Kerry are silent. I'm like, this is a calm before the storm. What's about to happen? It's going to get so much worse now.
I feel like to really scare us, they just post a tweet at like 1 a.m. for us, and then it would be like I don't know, Eddie or someone saying something like that, like, you guys haven't seen nothing yet. And it's just at like 3 a.m. when everyone's asleep, and we all wake up and we're like, no, what is happening?
Oh god, I don't know how I'm gonna sleep tonight. Beginning of the
I think they're gonna try to torture us.
You're gonna sleep well because it's 6 a.m.
Well, I mean, hopefully that's the idea, but I don't know. I'll be very stressed about the chapter. I honestly, if I wake up tomorrow and there's no chapter, I'll almost be relieved. Because then I'll be like, and I don't have to deal with this for another week. But I'll also be like, and I have to wait another week to see what happens next.
Exactly.
So I'm very conflicted.
I am still a little worried there won't be one, just because like episode 6 of volume 3 was where they went on that like 2-week hiatus back during volume 3. So like I'm like, if they really are drawing the volume 3 parallels, like this would be the time for a break week, but like
it doesn't make sense this week though. It's so far out from Christmas, so I'm like, it wouldn't really make sense. I feel like they're just deliberately being silent. And 2 weeks from now is Christmas. Yeah, so you'd think next weekend they would have a break because it's the weekend before Christmas. So
I am trying to think though, like one year they went on break for Thanksgiving and the volume was, I don't want to say delayed, but if the episodes had released when they were supposed to, like at the last 2 weeks of October, would it have been volume 6 over Thanksgiving? And maybe because they delayed everything else, the break got delayed too. Does that make sense? I don't know if that math is correct.
possibly.
I don't think they've done a Thanksgiving break though.
Pause in the middle
No,
of
they
an
don't.
act.
They don't really.
Yeah, I feel like they would have told us already if there was going to be no chapter because it is the day before. So I feel like somebody's going to tweet something today to sort of tell us whether or not there's going to be one. We think the break is going to be next weekend because it's the weekend before Christmas, and that's when they broke last year. So I'm sticking to that theory, and then so we're not going to have an episode on the 21st, and then we'll have one again on the 28th.
I don't think they've done Thanksgiving break since volume
Since
4
volume
or maybe
4, yeah, I don't
3.
think so.
I'm not sure. So
They did change their
They-
release
they-
schedule as well a couple times, so
They did one time do a break week for Extra Life, but I feel like that was like volume 2
yeah.
or something like that. So
This year,
Yeah.
the first chapter released during Extra Life, and I was like, that's a bold move. Okay. Well, I mean, either nobody's going to watch Ruby or no one's going to watch Extra Life. One of those two things are going to happen. But at least, it's like a 20-minute chapter, so I feel like a lot of people took time out of Extra Life to be like, and watch Ruby, and are back. But yeah. Although for reactors, it's a little more complicated than that. Like, I think a lot of people forget that reacting is so much more than just watching the chapter. It takes all day to do a Ruby reaction, and then into the week following as well. So it's like you gotta get up, get organized, actually record the reaction, you gotta edit the reaction, you gotta upload it, you gotta do thumbnails, you gotta do this and descriptions and screens.
Dispute.
It takes days. Disputes take, oh my god, don't even get me started on the fucking disputes this year. I'm so mad for you guys.
yeah, I'm
They
surprised
were
you guys
really
have
good last
been
week,
having a
though.
lot of problems because like
Last week was not that bad.
none of my chapters have been claimed, so I don't know
That's
what's going
the thing,
on.
though. There's no consistency with it. Like Larissa, Nerds of Oz, who I live with, when she has uploaded her reactions every week, she's had multiple sort of like one of them wasn't even claimed, and one of them was claimed but not blocked, and one of them was blocked and stayed blocked for 2.5 weeks, and it's like, what is happening? There's no consistency going on here. They've been so good every other year. There was a couple little hiccups in volume 6, but I feel like a lot of it has to do with the amount of layoffs that they've had this year, and apparently there's only 2 people unblocking Ruby reactions this year. And I'm like, there are hundreds of reactions. 2 people cannot possibly get through that in a week. You're done fucked up. Like, you need more people doing that.
I just kind of don't understand, at least with some of the channels that do it more consistently, there have been channels who've been reacting since, volume 3 or volume 4 and have always stuck to the rules. It's like, why are they not just oh, it's this person unblock, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
Like a.
I sort of wonder, a whitelist.
Yeah.
Yep.
What were you saying? I totally interrupted.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, I wonder if there is some sort of whitelist, because, like I said, none of mine have been claimed, and I don't think I've gotten claimed since, volume 6 on any of my videos, and so it's sort of I don't really know why or what's happening. We do the same thing as everybody else. We don't mess with our audio, but people who have been messing with their audio and their visuals to try and, because I think, who did that? I think Zhao Long, they tried to mess around with it a bit to see if they could get theirs fixed, but nothing happened. So yeah, I have no idea.
I know they've had a lot of trouble this year. Larissa's had trouble this year. I know Alex Torchwood Boys had a bit of trouble. Liam's had trouble this year. And these are huge Ruby reactors. You and Alex and Liam and yourself, Bri and Arnold and you and Xiaolong, you guys are all up there. And it's half of you are having issues. I think Alex also had a video that was blocked for 2 weeks. And I was like, come on, it's Torchwood Boy. He reacts to the show. I'm just so frustrated for everybody. And this is the first year in 4 years I haven't reacted to Ruby, and like I feel like I picked the best year to stop reacting, because I'm like, I would not want to be dealing with the claiming issues this year. That would just drive me insane. But like, I just, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I'm not reacting this year, because it just seems very painful for everybody who is. Arnold has a perfect streak too. Yeah, but that's Arnold.
Yeah.
He's Arnold. He's a matter of birds. I'm like, I'm not surprised he hasn't had any issues.
He's like the king of Ruby reactions.
He's the king, yes. But yeah, so what were we talking about before we got onto that topic somehow?
Ren and Nora were arguing, and Ruby was like, ew, Penny, please take me with you. Like, help me, please, sis.
Well, before that, we didn't talk about them on the way to the club, talking about Salem.
More arguing, and
okay.
Salem.
Well, more arguing.
One of the biggest issues I have with Ruby, I'm going to go on a tangent here, is they talk about top secret things out in the fucking open where everybody can hear you. It's like there's people casually on the streets and they're just like, oh, Salem and Amity Tower, and everybody's going to learn that we can't kill this big bad, but I'm like, people can hear you, shut up! Like, you're talking about this in the street! It's like, what? And like, I'm like, Salem's probably got spies everywhere, and like, Watts and Tyrion are a thing, even though they're not aware of it, but I'm like, can you be a little more discreet, please? You're driving me crazy. And they always do this. They always talk about this shit out in the open where everybody can fucking hear them. And it drives me crazy, because the show treats all the background characters like they don't have ears. It drives me insane. It makes me so mad. Do you care about random talks? Okay, I'm an introvert. Introverted people constantly listen to other people's conversations. If you think that people aren't listening to your conversations when you're out and about, they are. People are always listening to you and judging you, and, you know, have you ever been out somewhere and you're having a conversation with a friend kind of loudly because you don't really care, and you see somebody give you a look? That's this situation right here. I'm like, there are people around them who are 100% listening to what they're saying, but oh no, background characters can't hear anything because this is animation.
Especially because like they're huntsmen, right? So if I was a person in Remnant and I was gonna eavesdrop on someone, it would be the huntsman to see what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Obviously.
They obviously are walking in the street. They look important. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
they're not exactly blending into the fucking woodwork, are they? Look at them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, look, those three people over there look interesting. Oh god. Oh, the conversation they're having, and it's like, oh my god, can you please just stop doing this? It's so annoying. And I'm like, they also have, you know, conversations about other characters well within earshot of those characters. And that drives me crazy as well. I'm like, they can fucking hear you. Like, they are right over there. It drives me crazy. They're duller in color. Maybe that means they can't be seen.
Oh.
But yeah, no, people are always listening to your conversations, and it's like, you know, you just, the things you overhear in your everyday life. But yeah, it just drives me mad that they're just walking down the street casually talking about this. I'm like, they're not even whispering. Like, come on, guys, stop. And I'm like, they seem so blissfully unaware of the fact that, you know, they're probably being monitored at the moment, you know. There's cameras everywhere, and there's androids everywhere that can hear everything people are saying, and like, I don't trust for a second
Watts has hacked all
that,
those.
like, yeah, I don't trust for a second that none of this is going back to Ironwood. So, and if he knows something, he's being extremely coy about it.
That's also why I hated in chapter 3 when Yang just casually mentioned Jin. I was like, shut the fuck up!
Shut up! Yeah, it's when
do
they
not
like
say her name.
They stop to have that conversation. I'm like, shut the fuck up! You just got your new armor. That shit is bugged. Shut your mouths! Like, they just casually have these conversations, and I'm like, the Aesops are over there, and like, one of them's a faunus, a wolf faunus. He can probably hear you. Like, shut up. Stop talking about it. It just drives me absolutely batty that they do shit like that. It just drives me mad. Oh god, many have their own problems. Watts has hacked Penny. I mean, he has he didn't hack her so much in the way that we thought that he would. He more hacked sort of the security footage. She's also in the room and capable of being addressed directly. Yeah, having just an open conversation about Yang right in the fuck front of her, but at least they addressed that one. But like most of the time, they're just having these casual conversations about the end of the world in front of literally every citizen in Mantle. Well done, guys. Well done. But yeah, just drives me crazy, and I just needed to rant about that for a second because it's just so bad and they keep doing it and they need to stop. Anyway, back to what they're actually talking about. So, they keep bringing this up, this volume. They keep talking about Salem, and Salem can't be destroyed, and Salem this, and Salem that. And when everybody finds out about Salem, even though they're probably found out now because we're talking about it out in the open. And, like, they keep bringing this up. So, obviously, this is something they're going to address relatively soon, or at least by the end of the volume, because they just keep bringing it up. And I feel like the reason they keep bringing it up is because they're really trying to set up the fact that Ironwood is listening to them. And I don't believe for a second that he isn't listening. But yeah, he's playing it very coy, which is interesting to me. Because if he is
I think he wants Ruby to tell him.
Yeah,
he's
not giving
think that
anything
he wants
away.
them to come to him.
Yeah, he's not giving anything away at all. Unnecessary convo.
Especially because, like, if he was listening to them, like, he also heard Crow's conversation with Ruby about, like, making sure they earn your trust and stuff. So I'm like, although he's not really doing a lot right now to try to earn her trust outside of being like, have the day off, like.
Yes. But, like, I feel like Ironwood has always had his own agenda, and that's especially true now that Oz isn't in the picture. Yeah, so, like, I feel like he's got his own agenda, and if he does know, he's playing it very smart, which, surprises me. But I would be surprised if he does know something, because he's not acting like he does. But, that doesn't mean that he doesn't. So, but yeah, Nora and Ren have, been at odds this entire volume, and it's been a little strange to watch, because there hasn't really been much indication of it before this volume. But, like, obviously Ren's been, in his head a lot, and sort of he's starting to project that outwardly in frustration towards her. So, I've been really annoyed with Ren this volume. I've been like, stop being such a dick! What's your problem? Just use your words. Use your big boy words. But, he's,
I just can't help but wonder if it has to do with fighting the Cordo at the end of Volume 6. And, Nora's, you get back here with my man, and then her almost dying, and if, like, maybe that isn't the source of his, like, worry, or something like that. That's why I'm like, he said, I'm not good at talking, and I'm like, but, like, can you just, like, tell us, please? Like, I just want to know.
You just use your words.
I think the thing with them, it's like, I think that Ren has already lost, like, he lost both of his parents, and I feel like at this point, because they're sort of going up against Salem, he has this thought of, like, well, if I let her in now and, like, feel, like, actually feel things, like, feel that I love her, and then something happens to her, like, that'll crush him. So he's trying, he's trying to hide his vulnerability, I guess. He's trying not to be vulnerable with her because there's always the fear that they could lose each other. So instead he's been trying to push her away. Because, like, even in his little, like, thing where they were talking about Blake and Yang, but they were talking about themselves, it was sort of like, well, what if one of them feels that way, but the other is worried? Like, he didn't say that he didn't like her. He said that what if the other is worried? And so I feel like it's all of his worries.
Yeah.
Poor Ren.
He said the word worried, but what he really meant was scared. I think he's scared of what you just described, of being, like, getting that close to Nora is allowing himself to open himself up to being vulnerable to losing her. And,
exactly.
I think he's, terrified of that. So, but he is not good at expressing his emotions, so he doesn't know how to say that, and also I feel like he doesn't want to admit that to her as well.
I think another part of it has to do with, like, because I'm going back to my theory, because to kind of connect it, because like he had those two danger sense moments, and I feel like he's carrying that, and as well like anxious, like he doesn't know exactly what's going on, hence Clover being evil, but like he doesn't know exactly why. I can see him being anxious in that sense, and like not being able to protect Nora, and what if I let her in, like she can die, la la la, and like not really understanding what is happening. I feel like he's just a big ball of anxiety right now.
I agree 100%. But yeah, he's definitely all in his head, and that's just the kind of character that he is. So but yeah, I think he wears his emotions on his sleeve, like despite himself, so we can look at him being like, well, maybe the other one's just worried, and being like, oh honey, you're terrified, it shows.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we know, Ren, it's okay. But yeah, Ruby's like reactions to Nora and Ren arguing and like all of that. Again, on the same sort of subject as Weiss's reaction to Blake and Yang, is a lot of people have been saying, oh, Ruby is heterophobic. And I'm like,
oh no.
Come on, you people, does it ever end? Oh my gosh, just stop. You need to calm down. Like,
I don't, people are so dumb. It's like they're arguing in a public place. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's the point. Like, that's why she's like, Penny, do not leave me here.
Yeah,
like, they're
please
fighting.
don't leave me.
Sick of them fighting. Like,
yeah, and I feel like they have been fighting a lot behind the scenes as well. So I feel like everybody around them is getting a little bit over it. And I also feel like Ruby is, because she's younger than them, she is less mature than the other ones. So she's like, ugh, people in relationships, gross. And like, that's kind of still her attitude towards it. So like, she's just like, I am not hanging around these two right now. Like, you guys can have your domestic away from me.
I feel like people also forget, like, they were traveling together for like 6 months, like during volume 4, you know what I mean? Like, it was just Ruby and then Ranger. So like, I think that she's closer to Nora and Ren than people have thought that she has been. Like, I feel like people just forgot about volume 4, like it's so long ago it doesn't exist, sort of thing, where it's like, no, like her, you know, two of her like best friends, if you want to call them that, like they're blatantly arguing in public with each other. Like, it's not fun for her. I feel like people don't realize that.
Especially when Penny's like, I'm confused. Who are we talking about? And Ruby's like, I'm not really sure. Like, because they're talking about Blake and Yang, but they're really talking about themselves. And Ruby's just like, I'm literally so over all of these lovey-dovey people I'm surrounded by. Like, and so I think that's just her attitude towards it. I've never in my life heard of heterophobic before. That's because it's not a thing. It's not a fucking thing. It's just a dumb thing that stupid people are saying. And it's like taking, you know, themes in the show and just running off the cliff with them, as people tend to do. So, yeah, no, but she's just a bit over it, I think, with everybody around her. Sort of like, these two are constantly arguing, and Blake and Yang are constantly being disgusting, and she's like, get me out of here. So, you know, and yeah, that's just kind of Ruby's attitude towards all of it. But I love that she like grabbed onto Penny and was like, please don't leave me. Like, don't leave me here with these two. I want to go do Huntsman stuff. So, but yeah, this
Plus
sort
also,
of...
she's definitely feeling like a third wheel in that instance where she's like, oh god.
That shot of like, after Penny's like, oh hi everyone, and then that shot of like Ruby standing in between Nora and Ren, who are angrily looking off to the side, is the most awkward thing ever. And Ruby's like, hi Penny. Like, oh my god, it feels so bad for Ruby, because it's never nice to be in the middle of an argument between people. So if something happens to Nora, that would also hurt Ruby. I don't like how this volume will leave Ruby. No. But what was I gonna... Oh, yeah. The meeting with Robin was weird. That was a weird scene. I feel like Robin's character's very confused in the show so far. Because when we first met her, she came across as very entitled and almost like a toddler throwing a tantrum. And then in this scene, she comes across as very diplomatic. And I'm like... what are you? You're an anomaly to me. Like, what is your character? You can't be both of these things. You can't be a politician and a vigilante. You gotta be one or the other. You're like, she's trying to walk this line that doesn't exist. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's like she has, you know, some kind of multiple personality thing where like we get one side of her 1 minute and another side the next, and I'm like, I'm getting whiplash. What's going on? Is Cal slowly transitioning to Oz? She's slowly turning upside down.
Oh wait, me?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a strange.
There
Oh,
we
hello.
go.
There we go.
Cal has hit the quota. I didn't want to say anything
I
about
think
it
my
in case
phone
it was
is dying,
deliberate, but
so I will have to.
plug
I'll
it
be
in.
right back. But
Okay.
you guys can keep talking. You're fine.
No worries. So
I don't know. I think that's what makes Robin's character so interesting, though, is because like she is clearly this person who's like willing to operate outside the law, but then is also like deeply cares about what's happening with Mantle and is trying to affect change legally, and so like, and so she's trying to be optimistic and hopeful and all these things. And I think that this episode really is the turning point for her, where like her political career is over. Like, you know, people are being hurt. She thinks that like literally there's a government cover up against her. Like she's gonna be like full on vigilante now.
yeah,
And I think that's why we saw her like a little taste of what's to come in chapter 5, and then we got to
even
see
in the intro.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with Robin, I feel like I had a thought and now I've kind of lost it. The first time we saw her, she was literally threatening to sort of kill them to take the parts in the truck, and now she's like, we're gonna have to learn how to get along. I'm like, you've done a complete 180 since the last time we saw you. And that's just, I feel really strange about her character. Like, I don't understand who she is. And I feel like almost like one person wrote her in the last chapter and another person wrote her in this one, and they had completely different ideas about who she's supposed to be. And like, I just can't figure her out. She's just an anomaly to me. Clover mentioned for her to improve, and then she did. I mean, yeah, but I don't think Clover has had that much of an influence on her somehow.
Yeah.
I think again it just has to do with like, it is like almost like her public image versus, you know, her like, I don't know, her passion sort of, because like she is definitely, like, as she said in chapter 5, like, I want to find out what's happening with Amity by any means necessary. Like, I feel like that really encompasses her as a character, is that like she is like a by any means necessary kind of person.
Yeah.
And sometimes those by any means trying to win a spot on the council and doing things legally, and then clearly that's not working. So, but then I guess it's time to fight.
And she also said everything I do is legal, and I'm like, no, it isn't. You literally threatened a military cargo last chapter. Like, no, not
she
in the
was being
slightest.
coy about that, though.
Yeah.
She was being like, she's like, of course everything I do is legal. What do you want about? Like, her and Joanna shared that look when they did that too.
I'm like, yeah, nah, you're not fooling anybody. But yeah, I'm just confused about her, and I don't know how to feel about her character. But now I feel like they're gonna make her sort of at odds with Team Ruby in that. I find her interesting though, because I understand her perspective and I understand where she's coming from, but she just goes about it in the wrong way. And I'm like, you annoy me. Like, that's kind of how I feel about her, as I'm like, I don't understand you and you annoy me, because you contradict yourself. And I like, you don't know who you are. I think that's the problem, is she doesn't know who she is. So like, she just comes across as two different people. And I'm like, yeah, I don't even, you know, we need you to marinate for a little bit longer in the story before we can figure out what the heck is going on with your character. I feel similar about her to Ironwood for that exact reason. Yeah, I think it's a very similar thing with like, Ironwood is one of those characters where you go, I like him, I don't like him anymore. Oh, I like him again. Oh, I trust him, I don't trust him. Am I supposed to like this guy? And it's like that sort of conflict of like, literally 1 second I'm like, okay, Robin's kind of cool, and the next I'm like, yeah, I don't like her anymore. And she's the she's the new Jaime Lannister of Ruby, and that used to be Ironwood. It still is Ironwood to a point.
Yeah.
But now I'm like,
still don't know if we trust her.
with Ironwood, I'm like, I definitely don't trust you, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I'm like, I'm at that point with Ironwood where I'm like, yeah, I don't trust you. I like you, but I don't trust you. And but now Robin's, I'm like, I don't get you. I hope she leaves because losing Christina V so soon would hurt my soul. Yeah, she'll be fine. She's got plot armor for the time being. She's still important to the story. So I've always liked him, but it really pains me to see whether we trust him or not. Yeah, other shoe. I'll keep saying that until it drops because it's going to.
Yeah, especially with everything that it's very clearly going to become Mantle versus Atlas moving forward, and I'm like, Team Ruby's gonna side with Mantle. Like,
yeah, obviously
they're not just gonna let Atlas
walk all over them,
leave them to rot.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, that scene meeting with Robin was interesting. Now, Cory, you brought up about Joanna possibly being trans, which I think is very likely.
Yeah, I've had this thought ever since chapter 4, when we first saw her, where I was like, and just even when we first heard about the Happy Huntresses, I was like, this is their chance to introduce a trans character. Like, I just know this will be their chance.
Yeah.
And at first I thought maybe it could be May this episode because May is voiced by Kaden Jensen, who's a trans woman. But I'm like, no, I think it probably is Joanna, just because like she does appear a bit more masculinely than the rest of them.
She's very tall as well. Very, very, very tall. I think she's 6'3" according to the concept art in the credits. Whereas Robin's 5'11", which is still extremely tall. But yeah, she is a tall woman. But yeah, she definitely gives me that sort of vibe. It would be really cool to see a trans character in Ruby as well. I'm glad you brought up May because May is very interesting. May Marigold, who's very obviously Henry's sister, or a family member to some description, but I'm going with sister. So I'm like, it could be interesting if we have the possibility of seeing Henry again, because he's not a character I thought would ever crop up again. But now that they've thrown his sister in there, I'm like, what's with these marigolds? Like,
I feel like, I don't want to say people are getting carried away, but it's like, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. They share the last name. So like May must be Henry's sister. And I tweeted that out after the episode happened or whatever. But people have sort of been like, well, what if it's not his sister? What if it's Henry and they've transitioned into May? And I was just like, I mean, it's possible, but I'm just like, would they really?
It's a little quick, though.
A major asshole. Like, Henry was not a nice person.
No.
I mean,
I
like,
don't
see, that ran away, like, from her family because they're awful, and she joined the Happy Huntresses, like, compared to that, which would be fine still, but I don't know. I just think that, like, people are getting a little out of control. And like Ruby liked my tweet about them being the sister, and obviously like that's not necessarily confirmation, but to me I'm like, why would multiple members of Ruby like the tweet but not correct it? You know what I mean? If
it's very telling.
Plus
but
also,
I
like,
agree.
Henry wasn't a huntsman.
No.
And I think a lot of it has to do just with the fact that Kaden is voicing May, and so people are like, you know, the character's voiced by a trans woman, and we know of another Marigold, so maybe, you know, May is Henry. Yeah. Even though I'm like, I feel like it hasn't been long enough for Henry to have been able to transition.
Also, it doesn't really seem to fit with what we know about Henry's character, because when we saw him in Volume 4, he was like, I only come here for the food and drinks and the women. And it's like, he's very much, you know, grown up in this lavish lifestyle, and he's real comfortable where he is. So for him to be May now, joined the Happy Huntresses and living in Mantle makes no sense to his character. So I'm like,
or timeline
I feel like she's his sister, or timeline-wise, she's definitely his sister, or, you know, a direct relative in some way. And yeah, I'm feeling like Joanna possibly is trans, which would be very cool. What fairy tale significance does a marigold have? I have no idea. Don't ask me about stuff like that. I don't know.
But May, as far as I know, is supposed to be Maid Marian or whatever. Like, I think that people were talking about, saying that Maid Marian was like Robin Hood's love interest, and that she was noble blood and then ran away, which that again fits with it being Henry. Yeah, and whatever.
I do feel like though that Fiona is Robin's love interest at this point, because they seem very close to one another. And Fiona's adorable, and like she, you know, talks the world of Robin as well. So I'm like, you guys seem really cute, and I'm into it. Also, Fiona's this big and Robin's this big, so I'm also into that. Fiona
Perfect,
would
like head rest on her top of her head. Height.
Fiona's just adorable. Fiona did not die. She's okay. She
We
said she
hope.
was okay. She's fine. Nothing bad happened.
She said she was okay, so it's okay.
She'll be alright.
My
also, I will say, also Fiona wasn't poisoned.
No.
Because I know that you initially thought that, Kaylee.
I did.
But she wasn't poisoned.
I didn't realize that Tyrion used his weapon, not his tail, because he used his tail on some people. But yeah, mostly his weapons, because he's trying to sell the illusion that it was Penny that did it. So, I feel like Fiona is like her daughter. Fiona's a faunus. They're different species.
They just mean like, yeah. Not
oh, but in a
family.
family. Oh, I see what you mean. I was gonna say that they're different species. How does that work? Fiona got Tyrion's semblance and weapon. Yes, Tyrion's semblance. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, Fiona's like.
Cal was gonna say something though.
Yeah, Cal. What were you gonna say?
Interrupted Cal.
Oh, I was gonna say like it's weird because Robin has more human proportions, if that makes sense, whereas Fiona's head is like really big. Like I don't know if that's just been with the recent volume, but it's like some of the characters look more sort of human proportioned, and then some characters look like Ruby and Fiona where they just have really big heads. I don't know. I noticed that when they were standing next to each other, I was like, that's kind of weird.
I mean, I think Robin looks like a horse, but that's just my opinion. She's got a really long face. I'm not saying that like in a bad way, but she has a really long face, and it's unusual for a female character in the show to have almost masculine like proportions. It's really strange. Not features, but proportions. And she's tall, and she's got a long face, and like smaller eyes as well, which is interesting. I'm like, you almost look like a dude, but like I don't. But you look like I'm confused. I'm like, yeah, she's just she looks very different to the other female characters, and so does Joanna. I don't think both Robin and Joanna would be trans. I think Joanna definitely has a lot more female features than Robin has a lot more female features than Joanna does. But yeah, Robin's just like, she's got a very distinct look about her. She deliberately looks very different from the other female characters in the show. The feeling when Kaylee calls Robin a horse. I mean, she's got a long face. What can I say?
Or like I think that they are like the female characters are designed this way and the male characters are designed this way. Like even in I don't know, like the first thing I can think of is Frozen. Like if you look at Elsa and Anna and then you look at Kristoff, like they all
very
fit,
different,
but at the same time have big eyes and big heads, and then there's like sort of the men. So I feel like that's sort of what Ruby is doing, and so Robin and Anna, they don't fit in with like Ruby's head is this big, and like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
exactly. When I saw Robin in the opening, I thought it was a male character. No, I knew it was a woman straight away. She does look like she's walking the line between feminine and masculine. But like, and she looks very different from certain angles as well, which is something interesting I've noticed about Robin. She looks very different from her right side than she does from her left. So I'm like, in like different angles, she almost looks like a different person, or like it's a twin or something like that. Which, you know, a lot of the characters look the same from every direction. So it's interesting that she sort of has, you know, she looks different in different lights. Crow could be immune to Tyrion now. Yeah, he's not. He's not. But, Tryon. I didn't even notice you spelled it wrong, to be honest. But, yeah, so that sort of seems interesting. I loved, like, Fiona's little speech about Robin. And Fiona's adorable, and Fiona's gonna be fine. Everything's fine.
She's fine. If not, we join Mantle in the riot.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, Maro is an interesting character to me as well, because he is like outwardly like beat a kid and like, oh, I'm not happy to be working with you guys, but yeah, I feel like he projects this sort of tough guy persona, and he's like, ugh, people, like, I can't be bothered with these kids, but secretly on the inside he's enjoying himself. So I'm sad Robin isn't a fox faunus. Get the Disney reference? Yeah, but nah.
That might be Disney might not appreciate.
Little bit on the nose, I think. And Disney may not appreciate it. Yeah. But yeah, Mary's yeah, I love that Ruby like sticks her tongue out at him, and she's like, "Bitch, I ain't gonna listen to you. Why can I not
Mary
type?"
get along with Jean though too, like that sequence where they're getting all the missions and stuff, and like at the beginning he just hands Marrow the coffee, and at the end he hands him his own coffee. So like I think Marrow is like getting. I feel like Marrow is gonna be the one to get along with Team Ruby and Team Juniper or Ranger or whatever you want to call them. And like when the Aesops turn on Ruby, I feel like Marrow is gonna be like, no, wait, like
Yeah.
kind of try to be the middle person.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because he's also the rookie of the group, so like the other ones definitely have that like strict like we're not friends sort of mentality, but then but he's like, but friends, I'm a dog, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I also just love that Robin called him Wags.
Wags.
Oh yeah.
And Ruby
I love that Robin just gives everybody nicknames.
Yeah. Oh, the Pipsqueak is back. Ruby's reaction to that, she's like, she doesn't like it. She doesn't appreciate that, Robin. She may be small, but have you seen her scythe?
Right.
No,
she doesn't have it right now. Mary's the best character in the show and can never leave. Yeah. He's going to be interesting going forward, yeah. Because he's been...
Marrow sketchy a little too.
Sorry?
Like, I said Marrow just seems a little sketchy to me. Like, if I had to choose between, like, the traitors, like, obviously the Clover case is strong, but, like, his whole conversation about, like, the stuff with the law, I don't know, just how he was acting this episode, I was like, maybe we've been looking in the wrong place. Like, Clover's the red herring, but it's actually Marrow all along. I don't know.
I feel like after this chapter, because he was there when this unfolded, and he's the only one of the Aesops who was there when this happened, that is going to change his character a little. I feel like he's going to lean more towards being on the kids' side rather than on the Aesops and Ironwood's side if this splits. So because he's experienced this and he's been there when this has happened. But he obviously, cares a great deal, because after it happens he's like, get Penny out the back, and like, he's talking to Penny really gently and being like, you need to get out of here because they're gonna come for your head in about 5 seconds if you don't.
There's even like a shot of his face like after it all happened, like he was just like, what the
he was horrified. Yeah, him and Ruby, that shot there of them like seeing everything when the lights came back on and being like, oh my god, what the hell happened. Yeah, he very clearly keeps a lot of his feelings in on the inside, projects this certain persona, but we get to see a little more of his actual personality in this chapter when all of that happens. Bri's just had a thought.
Yeah, shouldn't he been able to see in the dark though?
Okay, I've seen a lot about this discussion online. Okay.
I'm ready to fight.
Yes, me too. Back in Volume 1, Pyrrha said many faunus are known to have perfect sight in the dark.
Okay.
Mara is a wolf faunus, and dogs don't actually see that well, so it makes sense for him to be a faunus that can't see in the dark.
Okay. It literally just came to me. I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said, I've seen conflicting information about that. Somebody was like, veterinarian here, dogs can see in the dark, actually. And I was just like, what is happening? Because so many people are like, dogs can't see in the dark. And then other people are like, actually, dogs can see in the dark. So I'm just now left confused. But yeah, it does say many, but where I'm confused is like, what constitutes a faunus getting night vision? Because like, I don't know if I'm just an idiot, but like, can lizards see in the dark? Can monkeys see in the dark? Like, I don't know, like, what counts, because obviously Blake does and she's a cat and that makes sense to me, but in show rules, is it the animal that you correspond to? Because I don't know anything about like, do bulls see in the dark? Like, could Adam see in the dark? I don't know.
Yeah. They also gave us that hint in chapter 3. Yeah.
Okay, I disagree with that being a hint, because that his point wasn't about being able to see in the dark. His point was about being able to squeeze through.
Yeah, I know that was his point.
Way they needed to go through. And then he said it would be preferable if somebody could see in the dark, aka Blake, you fit both criterias. So aka Blake,
I know that was his point, that he can't fit through there, but I feel like also it was foreshadowing at the same time. Just
I don't know. I still like. I'm willing to like let this go because I'm like honestly not the biggest deal, but like
Yeah.
it is kind of annoying that I'm like. Could they just like say that for us though that he can't see in the dark?
I
And
mean,
explain that
did they
away,
not
or,
say
like...
that with this though? If he had seen what was going on, he would have jumped in. So clearly he couldn't see shit. Like, because he would have seen
or they'd
Tyrion
shown
straight
us-
away from where he was sitting.
But we don't know. That's the thing is like I wish they'd shown us where he was during.
He
the
was
thing,
at the
'cause,
front of the
like...
stage.
Yeah, I think he was at the front of the stage. On
Yeah,
like,
I mean, but
not
he
the
was there
sidewalk.
at the end of it.
He
I'm
was
like,
there
where
at the
was he
beginning too.
during the
Ruby looked at
attack?
him. We saw
No, she
Penny
looked at
standing
Penny.
on this side and Maro on this side. That's where they were when the lights went out. And that's where Maro stayed. And Ruby got knocked to the front of the stage. So, and he was still there when
just
the
don't
lights came
remember.
back on. So that tells me that he couldn't see shit. Because he didn't
Or he
move.
got knocked out like Ruby did.
Or possibly.
Yeah,
I just wish we'd like seen more of what was happening with him during it, because like we can explain away like the Happy Huntresses and Ren and Nora being stuck at the back of the auditorium while everybody's rushing to get out, so like they couldn't do anything. But I'm like, where was Marrow?
I mean,
You know?
he was there. I sincerely don't think
Yeah.
he can see in the dark because he didn't move. And had he been able to see, he would have jumped up. He would have gone in there and done something.
Yeah,
but-
I don't think he's the traitor because like, just like the way he was acting afterwards and stuff. It was just something that like popped in my head, and I didn't know it was a huge discussion. My bad.
Yeah, it's a huge debate online.
my bad.
Yeah,
Oh, there.
no, I mean,
What confuses me, I guess, it creates a plot hole to me because it's like, okay, if he can't see, that's fine, but it's more about the rules of his semblance. Like, can he make everyone stay if he can't see that? Like, does he have to be perfectly still? Like, what constitutes? Because if he can't, and they can say, oh, well, I couldn't use my semblance, I couldn't see in the dark, right? Like, that would be like, okay, he's fine.
Yeah.
But if he can in the dark, it would sort of be like, well, why didn't you use your semblance to stop Tyrion, and that makes him sketchy to me. Or, oh, if you can still use your semblance even if you can't see, why didn't you do it? Like, that's where I'm like, is this just a plot contrivance so Tyrion could get away with it, or is there actually something going on? Like, that's the only thing that bothers me, is I'm like,
yeah.
how does his
Same.
semblance work exactly? Does he need to clearly see them? Does he have to stand in front of them? Because both times he's been still like this. You know what I mean? Like, he's been right in front of the target, and he's stood perfectly still whenever
Yeah.
he's used his semblance. So I'm just like, what are the rules? I gotta know to know if he's, like, sketchy as fuck or not. Like,
I think it's
Yeah.
some plot convenience and some, like, his semblance seems to take a lot of focus and he has to be standing in front of the target, as you mentioned. I think it's some sort of targeted time dilation, because they seem to slow like time is slowing when he uses it. It's not mind
Yeah.
control. Mind control wouldn't do that.
But-
That would stop dead in their
But
tracks.
then why could
think-
Joanna fire at him?
Because
is the
he
thing.
stopped using
that's
it.
why No, they.
He looked away from the crowd. He looked at Ruby and Robin. And then he almost got shot.
He still couldn't move, or Joanna still couldn't move. So that's why I'm like, I think that it's maybe some kind of stasis, or I don't know. Like, that's why I'm like, please explain. Just like explain. Like, it's interesting, but explain.
Yeah.
I still think, I think it's some kind of suspended sort of time dilation or something like that that's very targeted, and he seems to have to focus on the subject that he's using it on. Because as soon as he turned away, she fired at him. Like, it was either wearing off or it had stopped working altogether. So...
But why wouldn't Joanna have just charged the stage at that point?
I don't know,
Because like even
plot
after she
devices?
fired, she didn't move. So that's why I'm like,
She
Probably
may
just
not
stay
have
with
been
her
able to,
girlfriend.
or I don't know. Because, again, we don't understand exactly how his semblance works. But, yeah, he definitely has to be looking in the direction that he's using it. Because his eyes don't move from that point when he tells them to get Penny out of here. But the second he looks away, it's wearing off.
Yeah.
So, have you ever written a story and tried to cover everything the readers can come up with to find plot holes in it? Yeah. There's always going to be stuff like that doesn't necessarily fit and you can't explain it away. But, you know, I mean, I don't think he could see what was going on, and we don't understand exactly how his semblance works, but he seems to be able to he needs to be able to focus on that target that he uses it on. And that's a lot of people for him to use that on. So it's a very powerful semblance. It didn't seem to take a lot out of him. He's going to go fight Grim now. So, like, but I'm also wondering how much time he's had to develop his semblance, because it seems very strong.
Probably a lot if he's on the Aesops.
Yeah, it's like, gotta remember, he is an ace operative. Like, he's the best of the best.
Yeah,
Like,
he could probably only do it for a few seconds on that many people. Yeah, I would say that's probably likely. But going back to before the lights actually went out, the Renora kiss happens, and it's so gorgeous, and that's a really nice shot as well, the way everything in the background goes out of focus, and it's just completely, the focus is on them, and the music in the background reminds me of Shine too, which I'm like, oh, it's so cute, and it's a really, really nice moment, and then immediately after, everything goes to shit. Like, when that happened, I got really excited, and then Watts came on screen, I was like, oh great, it's you. Like, here we go. But yeah, Watts is interesting to me, the way he sort of, like, uses all of the scrolls to kind of do what he's doing, and the way he, like, lifts his hands up, and he's like a magician. He's like, and, like, the way he's sort of controlling everything.
Almost.
He's a puppeteer, yes. He really reminds me of Waluigi, which is odd. I don't know how deliberate that is, but, like, I've seen other people draw the same parallel, that, like, he reminds them of Waluigi, and I'm like, yeah, I see it. I don't know if that's on purpose, but I see it. Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, he's like a puppeteer, like you said. He's just, like, pulling everybody's strings. And the sort of way that he went about this, with, like, having Tyrion do this and the replacing the footage with Penny fighting Grim and stuff, I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense, rather than just taking control of her and actually physically making her do it. Because Tyrion gets to kill people, which he loves, but then also they're just trying to turn Mantle and Atlas against each other. So, you know, framing Penny is much easier than taking control of her and forcing her to do things. I do still think that could happen in the future, though.
I think it could happen in the future, but I don't think she's hacked right now. No. I really don't.
I don't think so. It's just a simple matter of replacing some security footage, which, you know, he can hack into just about everything, so in Mantle especially.
I mean, Penny has free will. That's why I'm like, I don't think she would be necessarily easy to hack. So that's why I'm like, and people are pointing out the scene where, like, she tells Tyrion to stop, and then Tyrion just disappears. Use that as proof that, like, she's hacked. But, like, I went back and watched the fight in Volume 4.
Ruby
and, like,
saw Tyrion, though. Like,
yeah.
He was there.
And and also, like, it was established that, like, Tyrion can move really fast.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I don't think he was, like, hacking to, like, remove Tyrion from her vision or anything. I think it was just, like,
just for effect.
A trick, kind of.
It's just for effect is all it is. He didn't literally vanish into thin air. It was just for effect. But, you know, he's fast. He
just jumped up. Like that.
He could have done. But yeah, you know, he's definitely there because Ruby saw him. And that sort of moment when they start counting down and you see his tail flick out and you're like, oh no. And, like, Ruby's always the one who sees the danger, like, before anybody else. She's always, like, and she always does it by accident. Like, she's not even trying to keep her eyes out or anything. She just happens to see it. And I'm wondering if Tyrion actually did that deliberately because he knew she was there, to, like, attract her attention. Because he looks directly at her and she's like, oh crap, it's Tyrion. And she tries to, you know, warn everyone. But yeah, watching Tyrion sort of, like, kill people is almost like, it's so interesting to watch him do his thing because he has such a unique style about him. The fact that he's killing people is horrible, but, like, it's really interesting to watch Tyrion do what he does, especially with his new tail as well. Because I feel like it's just a lot longer than
murdering everybody.
Yeah, breakdance murdering, exactly. That's exactly what it's like. but yeah, the like the whole vibe of this entire scene with the music and the screaming in the background and like the fact that the lights are off, everything's dark. I'm like, this is really well put together because it's awful. It's horrible to watch, and like it just makes you feel such dread when you see it happening. And it's like, okay, I don't care about any of these people, so I don't feel emotionally attached to anyone here, but it's still horrific what's going on. And the fact that the characters are completely, literally in the dark to what's happening. And that initial shot at the beginning of Ren and Nora like holding each other and looking around like what's going on is horrible. This whole thing is horrible. I hated it, but it was so good at the same time. Yeah, the score is incredible. The score's actually in the credits for the episode. One thing that I really loved about the scene was how they animated Penny with her blades. That was so smooth and so slick, and it looked really good. Like after she pushes Robin over on the stage and she's like moving them around, I'm like, that is gorgeous. It looks so good. Now, Tyrion's semblance is interesting because he used his aura to cut off Fiona's aura. So he like literally punched through her aura, which is very, very interesting. And calling parallels back to Volume 4 when he said to Jean, "You do interest me." I'm wondering if it's because they share a similar semblance that are like the opposite of each other. Inverse of Jean's, that's the word. Yeah. So it's very interesting. And people are also drawing parallels between the god of darkness and the god of light, which is also a very interesting sort of thing that I've noticed there. And I think it is interesting. I don't know how accurate it is, but there was the symbol behind Salem in chapter 3 of volume... Fuck, what volume was it? 6. Thank you, 6.
Chapter 2.
I can't keep up.
Yeah,
chapter 2, sorry. Was it 2? No, it was 3.
No, it was at the very end of 2 when
Oh,
Jin
the
said,
shot that I'm talking
"Name
about. Yes, it was.
Salem."
In the background is what looks like half of Jean's symbol. So I've always seen that and gone, I wonder if Jean has a direct connection to Salem's line somehow, because that symbol was not placed there by accident. That was deliberate. So nothing in this show is ever put there by accident. So that's always sort of intrigued me, in the fact that Tyrion's interested in him. And now drawing these parallels between their two semblances is all very, very interesting. And I'll be very interested to see if anything actually comes of it. He only cares about Salem, what she says, so he probably didn't care about Ruby. Yeah, but he's got beef with Ruby. She did cut off his tail, so I think he does care about Ruby quite a bit, actually, more than you think he does.
With a vengeance.
Yeah, he's got beef with Ruby, so I think he definitely does care, because that was his precious tail.
He had a mission.
Yeah, he had a job to do here. He wasn't focused on her at the time.
The goddess.
Yeah, he wasn't focused on her at the time. He had a job to do. He'll get his moment with Ruby, I think. Ew. Vision.
Ew.
Yeah, he had a job to do, and he was there to do that. But
I think it's also...
Yeah? Sorry, Cal?
Oh, sorry, you guys are lagging a bit for me.
Oh, are we? Okay. I was gonna say, it's a lot of silence going on.
You guys are lagging a bit for me, I think. I was gonna say, like, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Am I good?
Nope. There's a lot of delay going on. Oops!
Oh no!
Hi! She's gone! There we go.
Oh, no.
Well, okay. Well, we'll just
I'm
wait for
buffering.
Hello?
Hi. That's fine now, I think.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Say, like, it's just that, like, Watts and Tyrion are very theatrical. You know what I mean? Like, Tyrion, I think he was trying to scare her particularly. And even Watts, he's like a conductor. Like, he's conducting an orchestra, especially with all of the scrolls. And so I feel like he's just, I don't know, like, he loves it. Like, he just loves being extra. That's just Tyrion. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And, like, Tyrion definitely made sure that Ruby saw him. He was, like, taunting her. He looked
Yeah.
directly
exactly.
at her, and she was like, "Oh fuck," and like, yeah, he definitely made sure that she knew that he was there, which is interesting to me that he revealed himself to her when they're trying to sell this illusion that Penny did it, because and Ruby was like, it was Tyrion, he was here, like, because she saw him, and
Maybe because no one will believe her.
no one will believe her, maybe.
But
Yeah, I mean,
I
they
also
will,
think that
but
could be genius though, because if Ruby goes and tells Ironwood, I saw Salem's people in Mantle, Ironwood's gonna go fucking ape shit.
yeah,
And he's gonna be like, we gotta lock down Mantle, we gotta find these people. Like, that
Yeah.
could be an ingenious way to, like, further pit Mantle and Atlas against each other.
Definitely. We're running out of time, so we need to move it
Yeah,
along.
I was gonna point that out.
But so yeah, that whole scene, the way it was put together, was extremely well done, and definitely very reminiscent of events in Volume 3. Sort of that feeling of dread, and then the impending grim attack immediately afterwards. But yeah, at the end when the lights come back on and everybody's dead and like everyone's confused and like what the heck has happened, and they immediately blame it on Penny. I felt awful for Penny in this scene, especially at the end when she's sort of standing there and her eyes are getting all watery, and I'm like, oh, I feel so bad for her because this is like deja vu for her. It's happening all over again. And like, except last time she was the victim and now she's the supposed perpetrator. And it's like, oh, I feel so bad for her. Can somebody give her a break, please? The precious little bean. She's been through enough. But yeah, the fact that Mary, said to Robin, he was like, this wasn't us. I promise this wasn't us. She's clearly not having a bar of that. So yeah, I feel like for her to assume that it was Penny as well is not very smart, because Penny literally knocked her over to supposedly protect her from something.
She might not have seen that though.
She may not have seen it. I mean, it's a question of like, can they literally see nothing? Like, how dark is it in there? So, but
I think it was like pitch black in there because like Robin couldn't see like anything. Like even the little bit of light that Penny may or may not have been giving off didn't seem to be enough. Like I don't even think she could see Penny's glowing swords there. I think that she was just like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I think that it was a lot brighter for us to be able to see what's happening, but for them it was like nothing.
Yeah. I don't think Fiona saw anything because she wasn't looking in the right place.
Yeah.
She was looking at Robin when Tyrion came up behind her. So even if she could see, I don't think she saw him.
Yeah, she glanced over just in time for him to like take out her aura. So like, even if she had time to process, like she just got stabbed. Like she would have, it would have been bad. I wouldn't trust her to even know if she saw him. Just saw something and then
yeah, I don't think she could necessarily see very well. Robin, now it's gonna be even harder to convince Ironwood.
You can she see it?
Exactly, can she see in the dark?
I don't know. I don't think so. I also hope that Robin would also see Ruby tending to Fiona's wound and trust her. Well, I mean, Robin knocked her out of the way, so I don't think so. That maybe she could tell Robin that it wasn't Penny. I don't think Robin's going to believe anything right now. I don't think she's open to reason at the moment.
Yeah,
that's also too convenient.
Yeah. She's just seeing red at this point. So, I don't think she's going to trust anything that they have to say about those events. But yeah, that last scene when they're outside and Penny's just standing there. When Ruby reaches out to her, Ruby's got blood all over her palm. And she sort of notices it and then looks at it, like, horrified. That tore my heart out. Because I was like, I feel like Ruby must be suffering from so much PTSD right now. Because this is, this is an oddly very similar situation to what she's been through before. Even though it is a completely different situation, and it had such similar feelings about it, and the fact that Penny's involved, and then she's Ruby's watched something terrible happen, and last time it was something terrible happening to Penny. I feel like Ruby must be feeling awful right now. but she's doing a very good job of hiding it. Especially when she hears the Grimm, she's like laser focus. Okay, Grimm, let's go kill them. We'll deal with this after.
Yeah.
And she's, she must be feeling hard for Penny right now. Robin just lost so much trust some of her people in the election. Yeah. Probably in a few episodes they'll come
That
together.
was also
right now she's out for blood. Yeah.
Something we kind of glossed over. It was so tense, just like in the background, watching the like elections slowly get closer and closer and closer as like time was going on. Like starts off to 30% to 70%, and then like right before it's like 52 to 48, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, and then May was like, "It's in the bag." I'm like, "It's really not. It's kind of close." Like,
Yeah.
it's very close. I wouldn't call that in the bag. But yet the shot that horrified me the most was when all the lights came back on and Penny's standing on the stage, and then the announcer's like, "And the winner of the election is Jacques Schnee," and there's all these dead people on the floor. I'm like, this is awful. I hate this.
The worst case scenario just happened.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like drawing a parallel to the fact that this is going on here, but the rest of the world is blissfully unaware to what's just happened. Like, and it like that election announcer just being like, "Oh, carry on as per normal," when all of this horrible shit's happening, but nobody knows about what's going on. So it's like, it's awful, and the way that they've pulled it off is really, really extraordinary. An excellent job done with this entire chapter. It was definitely
it was all good until Watts hit upload on that video, and then shit broke loose everywhere.
Yep. Definitely. And now they're gonna have a lot of cleaning up to do. But yeah, I'm excited next chapter to see everybody sort of in their different places and doing their different things, and then slowly one by one realizing what's going on and then coming to assist with the Grimm. So, and then also, as we know, Robin getting involved and Blake and Yang being at odds with her, and like, spoilers, sorry if you didn't see the clip, and all of that. I'm very excited to see how the next chapter is going to unfold. The fallout from what's just happened. And it's probably going to get a lot worse before the volume's up. I'm still sticking to the volume end theory of Amateur Arena falling from the sky. I'm still sticking to that. But Salem's going to show up at some point too, which I think everybody keeps forgetting about. She's going to show up with their flying monkeys at some stage. I don't know if the clip will still be somewhere on the internet, but basically...
It was also only like 2 seconds, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like 2 seconds long. It was basically showing Blake and Yang fighting Robin in Mantle. So that's essentially what we saw. It was only a couple of seconds. So yeah, any other predictions for next chapter?
Oh, I just wanted to tell that person I recorded it and I didn't put it up like as the only thing, but I made a video on it and it was like included. So if anybody hasn't seen it, I'm sure other people have, but that's where I put it. So
I will post YouTube links in the chat for Cal and for Bri as well. Definitely go check out their channels and subscribe, and go check out that video that Cal just mentioned. They're both hilarious. I love their reactions. And Cal makes some very interesting theorizing videos about Ruby as well. So I think they'll save Salem for next volume if we'll be spending multiple volumes in Atlas. I am not sure.
I think it'll be the volume end. I can see them ending the volume with like Ruby looking up and like the skies filled with flying monkeys.
Yeah, because I feel like it's going to be, if they save it for next volume, it's too much time has passed, because after the credits of volume 5 we saw her creating those monkeys. It's been a whole volume since then, and by the end of this volume it will have been 2 volumes. So I feel like it's too long to leave it. Everyone, if it's another volume, everyone will have forgotten about it. And so like I feel like at some point that's going to come up, if it's at the end of this volume, possibly. Salem's going to be in Atlas at some point.
Plot twist, that's why they're holding back the announcement for the episode tomorrow.
Yeah.
Salem shows up mid-volume. What's up, bitches? I'm here. Yeah, no, I don't know how they would squeeze an extra volume out of Atlas if that was the case, but
Right.
yeah.
I mean, we do also still have Cinder and Neo to worry about, but
Yeah, I keep forgetting about them because they disappeared.
on
I
their
don't know
way.
about that.
They're on their way. They're coming at some point, unfortunately. I really wish Cinder would just die, please. I would love that.
Just have Neo crash the ship into the ocean.
Please. No, but then Neo would die. I don't want that.
Oh, true.
I want my best girl to stick around for a while. I just want the fucking cockroach to go away. But anyways, we gotta wrap this shit up because I have to go to work. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Jessica Negri was
Yeah? I think there's a bit of a delay.
Oh, no.
What was Jessica Negri saying? I saw you tweet about this earlier.
Huh?
We'll just wait for it to catch up.
There's a lot of a delay.
Yeah, there is. We can see that.
no.
Today. Lines. So.
Yeah, she recorded lines today. Yeah. Yeah, so they're actually recording, I don't know if they're still recording for volume 7. They may still be recording sort of pickups, but I'm not sure if they'll be recording Cinder's lines for volume 7 today. But she hasn't previously tweeted about recording, so possibly maybe in the last chapter she might show up, because they could possibly still be recording lines for the last chapter now. We know that they're currently writing volume 8, so they're not recording for volume 8 yet. That's not going to happen for a few more months' time, several months' time. So I think they're still recording for volume 7, so it's possible she's going to show up in the last couple chapters. But yeah, because we're already at chapter 7, so there's only 6 more left to go. So yeah, they could be recording last minute sort of stuff. So we'll be seeing Cinder at some point in the near future. But anywho, thank you ladies so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having us.
And this podcast will be up at this time tomorrow on my YouTube channel. And if you want to watch it again, or go ahead and leave some comments and talk about theories and things like that. And chapter 7 will be coming out tomorrow, possibly.
Hopefully.
I mean, we'll know by the end of today if it's coming out or not. But if it does come out, then next week it will just be Cory and I. If there happens to be a break tomorrow for some reason, we will have Larissa and Dawn on from the Corner of Remnant podcast. So whenever there's a break week, the following week we will have the two of those on to discuss the volume so far, which will be great. But thank you both for joining us, and we had better go. But usually we would go raid the Corner of Remnant, but it's too early. They're not going to be on for another 3 hours. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.